welcome. And a final thank you for this part of the evening to the Success Lion Dance Troupe for their fantastic performance down the aisles and back up onto the stage. It's not the first time that the troupe has performed in the museum. In fact, they actually were here 18 years ago for the opening of this building as the Museum of Man became the Museum of Civilization and opened in the new building. So 18 years later, the Success Lion Dance Troupe are wiser, wealthier, and I'm pleased to say that they're not suffering from arthritis. Avant le spectacle, vous avez probablement remarqué que nous avons peint les yeux du lion. Cela s'appelle la cérémonie de l'éveil du lion, the waking of the lion. En Chine, peindre les yeux du lion ou d'un dragon est une cérémonie traditionnelle pour inaugurer l'événement culturel et social d'envergure. Une fois que ces yeux apparaissent, l'animal tranquille et apporte la chance et la prospérité au projet et aussi apporte la santé aux gens qui prennent part. Il y a 4 ans, commençaient les discussions et ensuite les négociations afin de créer un partenariat culturel entre 2 grands musées nationaux, le Musée canadien de civilisation et le Musée national de Chine. Et il y a 2 ans, à Beijing, j'ai eu l'honneur de signer un accord historique entre ces 2 musées avec mon homologue de la Chine. Le Premier ministre du Canada et le Premier ministre de la Chine étaient présents à cette cérémonie qui se déroulait au Grand Palais de à Beijing. The agreement that we initially and eventually signed is a reciprocal agreement between this museum and the National Museum of China. It involves an exchange of major exhibitions between our 2 museums, the first exchange of its kind between Canada and China. Now, the first part of this exchange is starting right now, tonight, with the opening of Treasures from China, which is an exhibition of some of the finest historic artifacts from the National Museum. I'd actually point out that in some ways, the exchange began some years ago because of the movement of staff back and forth across the oceans in order to look at information and approaches and techniques. And in fact, this exchange between individuals is what has laid the basis for the excellent work that has resulted in this exhibition. But tonight, of course, we're talking about the exhibition. Many of the pieces in it are so rare, so significant, that it is the first time that they have been permitted to be shown outside China. So the exhibition is very special. It's without parallel, and it is appearing exclusively here at our museum. Most important, we think that this exhibition provides a unique approach for a museum visitor to see the treasures and through the artifacts to learn about China's long and rich cultural history and its contributions to world civilization. Les visiteurs se trouveront en présence de 5000 ans d'histoire chinoise, depuis la période antique jusqu'aux périodes dynastiques et impériales de la dynastie chinoise. Et quand je dis 5000 ans, franchement, c'est une sous-estimation. Il y a deux objets, deux outils de pierre qui remontent à une période humaine d'à peu près 500 000 années. Et ces deux objets sont les deux petits artefacts jamais mis en exposition ici. Mais à part de ces deux objets, nous présentons des identiques artefacts. On peut y voir des objets en céramique, en sculpture de cheval, en peinture, des œuvres calligraphiques, des tissus de soie, ainsi que des objets de bronze, d'or et d'argent. Ce que je veux souligner, c'est tout simplement que ces objets sont importants en eux-mêmes, et ils sont bénéfiques, surtout lorsqu'ils ouvrent une fenêtre sur des aspects différents de l'histoire de la Chine. En effet, nous voulons donner aux visiteurs l'occasion de découvrir et de mieux comprendre des périodes historiques, des tendances sociales, des conflits, des succès de cette civilisation extraordinaire. I really want to underline that. The objects are important in themselves, but even more so, they're important for what they tell us about the evolution and the achievements and complexities of Chinese civilization. I'll mention one of them. One of the objects in the exhibition is a jade Kong, a cylinder, which dates from between 3,300 and 2,200 BC. That is approximately 5,000 years ago. This Kong was used in rituals of worship. It is square on the outside, symbolizing the earth, and it is round on the inside, symbolizing heaven surrounding the earth. It was used by a spiritual priest, a shaman, to communicate with the spirits of heaven and the spirits of earth. The Kong was undoubtedly owned by a wealthy noble, as most Kongs that have been discovered have been found in large, elaborate tombs, themselves a symbol of wealth. So what you have here is an object that is rare and that is beautiful, but equally important, it's an object that helps to explain spiritual practices and relationships between wealth and power in a particular era in that society. And this, to me, is the essence of what a museum exhibition is all about. Why it's not television, and it's not radio, and it's not a book, and it's not a speech. It helps us to appreciate a society that is distant in time and distant physically, geographically. It helps us to appreciate objects in and of themselves. And in the end, it helps us to appreciate a contemporary culture which has its roots in living memories of a distant and a near distant past. This is what we try to do. Alors, je vous ai mentionné que l'accord muséal entre nos deux musées comporte deux volets. Et c'est en 2008, l'année prochaine, qui sera mis en œuvre le second volet de notre échange. En effet, le musée des civilisations, nous préparons actuellement une exposition spéciale consacrée aux nombreux trésors historiques des peuples autochtones du Canada. Cette nouvelle exposition sera présentée l'année prochaine à Beijing, alors que la capitale chinoise accueillera le monde aux Jeux olympiques d'été. Mais ça va durer bien au-delà de la période de 2 semaines des Jeux. Les visiteurs, les citoyens de Beijing, qui comportent à peu près 18 millions d'individus, c'est pas pire ça, 18 millions, c'est plus qu'en Québec oublié. Ces visiteurs auront un accès privilégié à l'histoire ancienne et actuelle, l'histoire actuelle des premiers peuples du Canada. So, that brief description, which you'll hear a lot more about tonight and in the future, it gives me a terrific pleasure to introduce a colleague, a friend, His Excellency Liu Shibin, the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China, the Ambassador here to Canada. Liu Shibin.
The Honorable Jim Abbott, Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Heritage and Women Affairs, the Honorable Senators and Members of Parliament, Your Excellencies and colleagues of the Diplomatic Corps, and Mr. Dong Qi, the Deputy Director of the National Museum of China, and Mr. Joseph Gapipurti, Director, Government and Community Relations, Air Canada, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, bonsoir. My colleagues and myself are very much appreciative of this wonderful occasion that we can come and attend the official opening of the exhibition Treasures from China and appear before this distinguished audience. So first of all, please allow me on behalf of the Chinese Embassy in Canada and also in my own name to warmly congratulate on the opening of this magnificent exhibition. I also want to take this opportunity to pay a particular tribute to Canadian Museum of Civilization and the National Museum of China for bringing this marvelous exhibition to Canada. For the last 28 months, since the exchange of exhibition agreement was signed in Beijing, the two great national museums have been working tirelessly on this landmark exhibition, and look what a fantastic job they have accomplished today. Let's give them a big round of applause for their success. Ladies and gentlemen, Treasures from China is probably one of the most important and historical exhibitions from China touring Canada. It not only brings to Canadian audience an unprecedented collection of 120 pieces of finest artifacts illuminating the rich history and the remarkable achievement of the Chinese people, but also help North American visitors better understanding China's contribution to the world's cultural heritage. In return, next year, as part of the exchange exhibition agreement, the Canadian Museum of Civilization is sending to Beijing an exhibition showcasing the treasures of Canada's first peoples. And the timing could not be better. It's Olympic time. I'm sure the Canadian exhibition will be enthusiastically received in China and help the Chinese audience better understand your great culture. You may all know this year marks the 37th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Canada. Looking back on the course of our bilateral relations, we find that the cultural exchanges and cooperation between China and Canada are of great significance for enhancing the mutual understanding and friendship between our two peoples, advancing the constructive and the cooperative relations between our two countries. 37 years ago, we could hardly imagine the magnitude and the depth of China-Canada exchanges and the cooperation as we see it today. Now, thanks to the tireless efforts by both sides, including the efforts by people present here tonight, the two countries have developed a wide-ranging and in-depth cultural bond. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is colorful and diverse. Nations need to draw upon each other's culture and to pursue common prosperity. As two great and culturally diverse nations, China and Canada have broad bases for cooperation and have enormous shared interests. History tells us that it is the national interest, rather than ideologies, that underpin the cooperation between our two nations. The cooperation between our two countries has a direct impact on the future of our two peoples and that of the world. We cannot afford to rest on our oars and need to make a further effort to tap the vast potential. A long-term and a strategic vision serve the best interest of our two great nations. I'm happy to see Canadian Museum of Civilization and all of you present tonight have already embraced this vision, and I applaud all of you for your great strides in helping to build a bridge of understanding and the friendship between our two peoples. Here I can assure you that the Chinese Embassy is ready to work more closely with all of you on these objectives. Finally, I'd like once again to congratulate on the opening of this landmark exhibition, which I'm sure is going to be a tremendous success. And I hope you all enjoy the evening and the exhibition. Merci.
尊敬的阿比诺维奇先生，
Dr. Victor Greenwich,
尊敬的卢树林大使，
His Excellency Ambassador Yushin,
各位来宾、女士们、先生们，
distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen,
由中国国家博物馆和加拿大文明博物馆共同主办的来自中国的珍宝中国国家博物馆馆藏展今天隆重开幕。
welcome to the opening ceremony of the Treasure from China, collections from the National Museum of China, co-presented by the National Museum of China and the Canadian Museum of Civilization.
请允许我代表中国国家博物馆，向为本次展览付出辛勤劳动的中加两国专家及有关人士表示衷心的谢意。
On behalf of the National Museum of China, please allow me to express my sincere gratitude to the experts and the working staff who have devoted their diligence to this exhibition. Thank you all.
中国和加拿大都有着辽阔的疆域，也有着独特的民族文化。
Both with broad territory, China and Canada have greatly diversified culture of ethnic minorities.
2005年，在两国总理的见证下，中国国家博物馆与加拿大文明博物馆签署了关于筹备交换展览的谅解备忘录，拉开了两馆合作办展的序幕，也为两馆之间实现长期交流与合作打下了良好的基础。
In 2005, in the presence of the two prime ministers, the two museums signed a memorandum for exhibition exchange, which is not only the prelude of the cooperation between our two museums, but also a solid foundation for long-term communication and cooperation in the future.
来自中国的珍宝中国国家博物馆馆藏展是两馆交换展览之一，包含了120件套中华瑰宝。 其中1品23件。
This exhibition, Kicking and Alive, is one of the exchange exhibitions between the two museums. 120 pieces of treasures from China features this exhibition, 23 of which are Rich's premium masterpiece.
这些珍贵文物跨越了年代，从遥远的旧石器时代，一直到中国最后一个王朝结束时的1971年。
Those precious relics represent every historical period from the Paleolithic period to the lost dynasty of ancient China in 1911.
通过这些文物的展示，可以使加拿大观众对悠久灿烂的中国古代文化有一个大致的了解。
I do hope the Canadian audience could enjoy themselves and know more about the Chinese culture in this visit of the splendor of China from ancient time.
我们相信本次展览的举办一定会增进加拿大和中国两个国家、两国人民的友好感情。
I also wish this exhibition will bring the two peoples and the two countries into greater friendship.
最后，预祝展览取得圆满成功。
Wish you complete success for the exhibition.
谢谢大家。
Thank you all.
You know, Dr. Dong is not merely someone who's fulfilling a role. I must tell you that he is one of the great personal supporters of this entire project. We were talking a little while ago and recalling a meeting and a dinner that we had at the home of the then ambassador to China from Canada, Joseph Charon. And Dr. Dong took me aside and we sat and he said, these were the earliest days of a whole concept. We hadn't even begun, really. He said, I am personally interested in this. This is going to happen, this exchange between our countries. So really, Gongxi, you are owed a lot for making this happen. I want to thank our major partner and official airline, Air Canada, which has provided round-trip air transportation for all of these artifacts. You can imagine how safe transportation of special treasures is a key to international museum work, for that matter, to national museum work. And having Air Canada as a partner has really made it possible for this to take place. And so please, with those words of introduction, welcome Joseph Galberti, the Director of Government Relations from Air Canada.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'll be keeping my remarks pretty short this evening. At Air Canada, we're tremendously committed to the Chinese market. It's very important for us. We view it as a privilege to be able to, through the airline, build a bridge between our two great nations, Canada and the people from all over China. We view this opportunity to sponsor this magnificent exhibit as an opportunity to continue that commitment, to build the bonds of common understanding. I, on behalf of Air Canada, would like profoundly to thank the Museum of Civilization and the National Museum of China for the opportunity to partner and bring these tremendous works to this great facility. I would like to thank them and let them know how honored we are as a company on behalf of our 35,000 employees around the world to what a deep honor it is to be entrusted with these magnificent works. And with that, I'll leave you with these words. Just when you leave here, please go out and tell everyone to come down to the museum and see these great objects, and let's continue to build that bridge of understanding. Thank you.
À titre complémentaire pour cette exposition, le musée a produit une audioguide qui est disponible en 4 langues, anglais, français, mandarin et cantonais. Alors les visiteurs pourront effectuer un voyage à travers la Chine en commençant avec un petit vieux de 500 000 ans et en se terminant par une folle la quai rouge ornée d'un dragon et de dragon phénix de la dynastie Qing. I want to thank two other supporting partners who have been so helpful to us. They are GE Canada and the Canadian Foundation for Chinese Heritage Preservation. Their assistance and their contribution has made possible a publication that we will show you later on and that is available in our boutique. And their assistance has also made possible the audio guide in 4 languages. I want to thank Dr. Chen Shen from the Royal Ontario Museum for his scholarly contribution to the audio guide. And one last thank you, and you sometimes see it on other exhibitions, and that's a thank you to the Department of Canadian Heritage, who have supported this exhibition, as they have supported other exhibitions, through what is called the Canada Travelling Exhibitions Indemnification Program. And those are big words, indemnification. Let me tell you that without the government indemnification program, a museum like ours, a museum like our colleagues across the water here in Musée des Beaux-Arts, would not be able to afford the private insurance for these types of valuable artifacts. So this is a small, quiet way in which the government and the department make museums operate effectively. And with those words of thanks, let me present now the Oriental Dance Troupe of Ottawa, who will perform the sculpture of Dun Quang, inspired by the Dun Quang frescoes. They will take us into a dreamland on the ancient and mysterious Silk Road. Ladies and gentlemen, the dancers from the Oriental Dance Troupe of Ottawa. publié un livre souvenir intitulé Dans l'œuvre du temps, qui présente certains des objets les plus rares et magnifiques de l'exposition. La version anglaise, Timeless Splendor, est également disponible. Et l'auteur de ce livre est M. Van Saint-Paul, notre conservateur de Sud-Est asiatique. Merci beaucoup, Van Saint. Merci beaucoup. So, ladies and gentlemen, the souvenir book, Timeless Splendor, which features some of the most beautiful and valuable objects from, I'm sure you can see it all down there. It really is quite lovely. Do take advantage of it. Do take advantage of the productions tonight in the special exhibitions boutique. This exhibition, these are my final words, this exhibition has been an immense undertaking, crossing a continent, crossing an ocean in different languages and different cultures. I really want to thank the staff here in FCO and in Beijing for the work that has made this possible. They have handled so many challenges: the preparation of the detailed agreement, the insurance, the design, the selection of artifacts, the support of the research, the weighting, the packing, the installation, the production of the audio guide, the special purchases for the boutique, the relations with communities here and other cities, the relations with media, and it goes on and on. So to all of our staff in exhibitions, in research, in public affairs, in the commercial branch, to all of them, a special thank you.
Well, I'm the president and the chief executive of the Canadian Museum of Civilization Corporation. And that's the official name of the corporation because it includes several museums. The Canadian Museum of Civilization itself, also the Canadian War Museum, and then within the Museum of Civilization there's a children's museum, there's IMAX, there's also a postal museum, and so it's really quite a nice, large cultural institution. It's the largest museum in Canada. It has collections of artifacts that number in the millions, very large exhibition spaces, many permanent exhibitions as well. We focus on human history, the social history of Canada, on Canada's relationship with other cultures, civilizations in the world. We also focus in the War Museum on Canada's military history, and in the Children's Museum on educational opportunities for young people. So altogether then, it's a very large, very successful cultural institution. There are some wonderful museums elsewhere in the country, but this one really stands out for the range of topics, subject areas that we cover, and also for the creativity. We're very well known for our innovative and creative ways of presenting information and involving the visitor who comes to see our exhibitions. The museum itself was founded as part of the government's geographic survey going back 151 years ago. So it's 1.5 centuries old. The museum has gone through different phases in its development. It used to be known as the National Museum of Canada, then it was known as the National Museum of Man, and since 1986 it's been known as the Museum of Civilization. But the building that we're in, a very, very beautiful building all around us, this building was opened in 1989, and all of the old museum materials were brought here, and a totally new approach, a renovation of approach to exhibitions, to research areas, to collections, was all installed here. So in a sense, this very old museum is now in a very new building, and you have a combination of old and new. It's a little bit like Chinese civilization, a combination of old and new, continuity and change. publicly owned, so it's a crown corporation like the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It is owned by the public of Canada through the government, but we operate independently of government. In Canada, as you know, that's called the arm's length principle, so that we operate at the distance of an arm from the government. The political people in government do not want to tell us do this, do that, and they do not tell us to do that. They allow for intellectual independence and academic research, management independence, but at the same time, it is the government that says, well, how is the money being spent? Because they are the source of a lot of the money that is here. Not all of it. We do fundraising. We charge, of course, entry fees at the door. We generate more revenue than any other museum in the country. And so in that respect, we do very nicely commercially, but the government is still a major source of funds because of all the research work that we do. We receive in this building 1,346,000 visitors a year through the doors. We count them electronically, so we don't make this number up. This is an audited number. 1,346,000 visitors last year came through the door. And at the War Museum, the Museum of Military History, we had 475,000 visitors. So as a corporation, it's nearly 2 million visitors that come through our major history institution. From a visit almost 4 years ago, from the man who is then the director of the National Museum of China, Pan Zhenzhou, and based in Beijing on the east side of Tiananmen Square. He came with a delegation because he was looking at modern museums in North America to gain some ideas for a renovation that they were planning in Beijing. I then went back to Beijing and to some other cities. We sat, we talked, and what emerged from our discussion was the idea, why don't we have an exhibition of the treasures from the National Museum of China, and in return, we have an exhibition in Beijing a year later of treasures from Canada's National Museum, the Museum of Civilization. So it's a reciprocal exchange of exhibitions that are really done in a balanced way between two equal partners, two national museums. That was the origin of the idea about 4 years ago. Well, since then, there's been a tremendous amount of work that has gone on. Work involving our researchers and researchers at the museum in Beijing, work involving our text writers. They are called interpreters. They are people who develop the scripts and the interpretation and the explanations about the objects in an exhibition. Work involving the designers. Of course, the people responsible for the transportation of artifacts. Many, many different people from our side, from Beijing's side, meeting together at different times and creating what is now a wonderful exhibition that has just opened its doors. It's not special funding from the government. The government gives us each year, voted through Parliament, a basic grant. And after that, the government just does not say, do an exhibition on this or do a project on that. We are totally independent in how to decide how to spend the money. So the decision to have an exhibition on China was our decision as the people responsible for the museum. And we made that decision because fundamentally there is so much for people in Canada to learn about China. There is so much to explore for people to understand 5,000 and 6,000 years of continuous cultural development, for people to understand how the material objects, the artifacts, whether it be vases from the Tang Dynasty, whether it be Celadon ware from another period of time, whether it be the bronzes from earlier periods, what do they tell us about how people lived in China? What do they tell us about the social relations between individuals who may have given gifts from one person to another? What do they tell us about how people were buried when they died and the spiritual beliefs of people in China at a certain period of time? This is why an exhibition in a museum is so important, because it's in a museum that you see the objects. You don't see photographs, you see the real thing. And you are able to read and to listen to the audio guide, and you are able to go to lectures and then look again at the object, and from the object comes a deeper understanding of the culture, of the civilization, of the many periods of time in an amazing country that is called China. Believe me, as we stand here today, the security is all around us. And if you think you're taking pictures of me, think how many pictures we're taking of you and everybody else who's around, because we have to watch very carefully. We take very great care. It is not the first treasures exhibition that we have. We had the Dead Sea Scrolls here several years ago from Israel. As an example, we have had other remarkable exhibitions. We have systems in place, we are very careful, and of course we protect these items. We also protect them in the way that they are handled in the environment, because every object has to have protection for humidity, protection for heat, protection from light, and all of that is part of the overall presentation and security of an exhibition. We're very careful. You know, I don't think there is actually a single financial estimate, because each item is very valuable in and of itself. We also have 23 items that are deemed to be highest grade national treasures from China, highest grade as measured by the government of China. And each one basically doesn't have a monetary value. It is of such great importance to history and culture that money cannot measure its real worth. So for me to tell you that these treasures are worth $10 million, that doesn't even begin to estimate what they're really worth, or $100 million. They are treasures from an ancient civilization, protected now in a modern country, and part of what we present to the world to help the world, and particularly Canadians, understand more about China. We are bringing an exhibition next year, 2008, on the ancient peoples of Canada, and these are treasures from the Aboriginal peoples of Canada, in order to help to explain how Canada, while it is a young country, is actually peopled by individuals who are themselves ancient in their roots, in their cultures, and in their understandings, and therefore a much more sophisticated understanding of Canada and its diversity, Canada and its many cultures, Canada and its many voices. We also want to explain in this exhibition how Aboriginal peoples are part of the living nature of Canada. They are not simply people from the past, they are people of the present, people whose communities are alive and vibrant and creative even today. And that is going to be shown in Beijing during the Olympics period in August of 2008, but it's going to stay on in Beijing for several months longer, so that people who are in Beijing, living there, or people who are visiting there, will have the choice, the opportunity of seeing something quite amazing and quite beautiful, and that also deals with ancientness and modernity, but in a faraway country for them. The faraway country is called Canada.
基金會咧非常之開心咧，可以咧參與呢個活動啊！我哋有成呢一個嘅800人去參加，然後咧下個禮拜咧有成咧600人參加，總共咧就1400-1500人去參加呢一個嘅museum。其實最主要咧，即係我哋咧今次嘅museum咧係有好多方面嘅展覽，有啲舊石器時代一路至到最新嘅清朝嘅嘢。咁我覺得咧係無論你喺邊一個嘅 museum 咧，無論喺呢個New York 嘅或者喺呢個 London 嘅，雖然好多時都有咁上下嘅 collections。但咧佢好唔同咧，就係話，當你多方面睇嘅時候咧，就會睇到咧每一個嘅展品咧，都有自己特色嘅地方，更加了解咧當時嘅文化為背景。咁所以我覺得就係好呼籲各位咧，就係可以咧去睇下呢個 museum。總共咧有3個月嘅時間㗎，一路住到10月尾為止嘅。我哋有幾個重要嘅角色啦。第一個角色咧係帶領一啲嘅華人嘅團體咧過嚟參與啦。第二個咧就係話我哋做一啲嘅不同嘅講座，係增加咗呢一個嘅非加拿大人對呢個中國文物嘅興趣咁樣。咁我哋上一次喺 Rome 咧做過啲 symposium 啊嗰類嘅嘢。咁仲有除咗之外咧，就係我哋都喺資金上嘅嘢都有資助。今次嗰本嘅出嘅書啊，同埋呢一個嘅 audio 啊助聽器咧，都係我哋咧foundation 咧同埋呢個GE合作嘅。咁所以我哋無論喺呢個 financial 方面或者係直接嘅參與，都有做扮演一個角色嘅。個目標咧就係話將提高呢一個嘅華人或者第二代嘅華人，甚至係非加拿大人咧對文物保護嘅興趣。咁所以我哋無論喺呢一個嘅展覽嘅形式也好，或者講座形式也好，都盡量咧係使到呢一方面嘅目標咧能夠咧係伸展出嚟。未來嘅動向都係一樣，我哋都會搞一啲不同嘅呢個展覽。OK， 而家可以籌劃緊喺2008同2009年嘅展覽咁樣。咁然後咧再有咧係做一啲我哋話喺呢一個嘅保護嘅工具入邊，亦都係相關嘅重要。咁我哋亦都同一啲嘅中國嘅一啲嘅museum咧係傾緊有咩地方可以幫手咧，仲去做一啲嘅保護工作。
这次在加拿大文明博物馆举办来自中国的珍宝中国国家博物馆馆藏展，最大的收获应当是通过这个展览，可以让加拿大观众比较全面系统的了解中国悠久的古代文明发展史。因为呢，在这之前两国的博物馆同行们在这方面的交往呢，相对来说要少一些。后来呢，随着两国的政府间的文化交流越来越多，两国政府越来越重视，所以在两国总理的见证下，我们和中国国家博物馆和加拿大文明博物馆签署了长期合作交流的协议，这个意义非常重大。我想通过长期合作，我们可以不断的把中国的古代文化，不断的介绍给加拿大观众。到明年在北京举办奥运会的时候，将有一个加拿大文明博物馆到北京举办的展览，主要展出古代加拿大民族文物展。这个中国古代的文明和加拿大古代的文化各自都有自己独特的风格，非常独特的特点。所以说呢，这个加拿大古代文明能到中国北京去展览，也使中国观众对加拿大的古代文化有一个深刻了解的机会。因为我们现在都说现在的世界是多极的文化，其实在古代的世界文化也是多极的，是多元的。正是世界上多元的古代文化组成了灿烂的世界古代文明。这次展出呢，应当说件件都是国家级的重要文物，件件是珍宝，有许多珍贵的文物从来没有到国外展出过，所以说这个展览整个的规格是相当高的，其中具有国宝级的文物就有23件左右。这个整个展品的保险费有3433.5万美元，所以说文物的珍贵性质是可想而知的。我们非常欢迎加拿大的广大的观众 来到加拿大文明博物馆参观这个非常难得的展览。
I'm the general manager of the Sheraton Hotel, mainly a business hotel catering to business travel, government travel, as well as small to medium sized conferences and conventions. That we are downtown, located right among all the Parliament building and close to the convention center and close to all the attractions, the museums and the Rideau Canal, etc. So we have a very primary location in downtown Ottawa. We have 236 rooms. We have 2 very good restaurants. We have the Sasha's Bar, which is a library bar off the lobby. We have the Carlton Grill, which is renowned for its good food and for breakfast and power lunches and power breakfast. And we have the Club Lounge, and we are a full-service Sheraton hotel with all the amenities. Over 10,000 square foot of meeting space, which is all newly renovated in the last 3 years. And the hotel is in wonderful condition, and the biggest assets we have are obviously our staff and our associates. The hotel was built in 1972. It started out as a 4-season hotel, and the current ownership purchased it from Four Seasons in 1989. Ottawa is obviously a business city and business destination because of the government. We have a wonderful winter loot facility along the Rideau Canal, the world's largest skating rink. We have great festivals, the Tulip Festival, the whole summer we have a great array of festivals. And indoor, you have the greatest national museums in the city. Ottawa is a 4-season, year-round destination to visit. If people would like to have more information about what's going on, they call the hotel directly or contact it through our website, SheratonOttawa.com.